Yo, what up? We're recording now. Shout out to everybody who's here. We're live. We're at In Our Nature. We're here for second installment of Here and Doing Things. I got my main man with me. His name is Kyle Mosher.
How's it going?
It's good, man. How are you?
Good. Just had some Boston Market. Feeling pretty good about it. Yeah. I got an extra side, so I was feeling kind of comes with two. I got three.
Hold on, did you purchase an extra side or they hooked you up with it?
No, I had to buy it. I was kind of feeling kind of hungry.
Got you.
Yeah.
I
got some green beans.
I'm going to bring you to my grandma's house you can
it'll be so much better.
So you're not excited about Boston Market green beans.
Yeah.
But is that really a Boston company?
Well, they had them up when I lived in Boston. Then I moved down here, and I was like, man, I got hoodwinked because it's probably not like a Boston company. Then I saw them down here, and I'm like, you kidding me? It's like they're in Charlotte.
I wonder if it originated in Boston. Somebody remind me to Google that. Did Boston Market actually start in Boston? Is that a thing? Anyway, we're not here to talk about restaurants. Well, we might be. I don't know.
With me, preface, we're going to go down lots of wormholes today, guys. We're going to end up in some weird places.
That's how it kind of goes with Kyle and I. We've known each other for probably, 4 or 5 years now?
Yeah.
We, connected off of Twitter, 2014. Mm-hmm. I don't know. You just, talking trash on Twitter. And I was just like,
sounds about right.
This dude, he does art. He's talking trash on Twitter. I might have to see what this guy's about. And I think I'd, DM'd you for you to just to come up to the studio.
Oh, yeah.
And then I think we ended up talking for, 4 hours. For the first time.
Crazy. We really we just hit it off really organically.
Yeah, for sure.
So this will be, now that we're gonna have this documented,
again,
'cause we do this quite often.
Yeah,
we just talk for hours and we end up in a lot of weird places.
We'll try and keep this one kind of tailored though.
Yeah.
For sure.
Keep me in line, man. Keep me in line.
But no, I guess you could formally introduce yourself for the folks in the room who may not be familiar with you or your artwork or your brand or however you.
Yeah, sure. So my name is Kyle Mosher. I'm a full-time. This is actually the hardest question, honestly. I'm a full-time fine artist, and I've been, I guess, moving towards labeling myself as a multi-disciplinary artist. I was practicing that word on the way here. I'm like, I don't want to fuck that up. Multi-disciplinary. And I've been making art professionally for 10 years. I've been doing it full-time for 6 years. I worked for Puma for a year doing footwear design, and I worked for a company that was a liaison between Apple and big fashion brands, so Kate Spade, Jack Spade, and I did basically we were one of a handful of companies that were licensed by Apple to recreate their accessories with these fashion brands. So the fashion brands would approach us, and then they would basically give us 2 years lead time. And they were for example, they would give us spring 22 of their line, and we would have to sort of translate that into accessories, Apple accessories specifically. Those are probably the two coolest jobs that I worked, and I was fired from both of them. So, and then I did other things pretty much whatever it took, all while trying to make art. And I guess that's it. I have a signature style. It revolves around cut paper. That's influenced by something called synthetic cubism, which is a movement in the 1900s spearheaded by Picasso and Braque, that were George Braque. And that was basically the first time that paper had been used as a fine art, as opposed to oil painting and sculpting and acrylics. But this was the first time paper had been used, specifically collage as a form of fine art. And the first time I ever saw that sort of style of work, it really just spoke to me, and I've been refining that craft ever since probably my sophomore year in school.
Yeah, and that's one of the last year when I was really going down the fine art wormhole, I would just text Kyle to pick his brain because he has the art history, fine art background, because he actually formally went to school and he's formally trained. So as I'm self-teaching my stuff and reading stuff on the internet, it's for me it's important just for terminology and context and all of those different types of things. So I would just text him hey, what's what do you know about post-painterly abstraction?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think that, I mean, obviously, I think you and I talked at length too about how like the education now is almost like a degree factory where they just sort of like fluff you along and push you out, and really you find a really good mentor, and you can, as long as you have sort of like, we have the resources now with YouTube and whatever else is online, but kind of save you $60,000 going to an art school.
That's a fact. That is a big fact. But like, how do you feel like that? Do you feel like that played any real role in like your trajectory though? Like, obviously you wouldn't change it because it changes like the entire like everything, like as far as story wise. But like, how do you feel that actually affected you? You feel like did you okay? How about you said you discovered that style in school, right?
Yeah.
Like your sophomore year.
Yeah.
So what's the journey of getting to that like in school? Were you like working on a specific project? Were you like challenged? Was it like a professor that was like on you and you just kind of like came across it? Like, if you can recall, like, what was that process like?
I mean, I knew right away. It was in an art history class, so I knew right away. Like, I wasn't formally taught until, like, just a little bit of the background of me is like, so I didn't do any sort of formal art until I was in my 20s, my early 20s. So I took like the schools that you take in high school, and I was always drawing and being creative. But at like really around my early 20s, I was like, I'm gonna pursue this full time, or like be more serious about the pursuit of art and the study of art. And I was just reading everything I could get my hands on. And at the time, I was in a liberal arts school, so and I was doing like graphic design, so everything was like digitally based. And I found myself thinking through the computer. Mm-hmm. So, and the thing that the end result of what comes through a computer is only as good as the person who's using it. So like I felt that we weren't really, being pushed to explore with our own two hands or with our own brain. So like I was doing research, and I figured out that like an art school would be the best way to go about this process of creation, for it to be more cerebral and for it to be more hands-on. And I was just like, how the fuck am I going to get into an art school? Like, I had never done anything. So I dropped out of school, didn't tell my parents, which is like, if anyone's listening, don't do that. Don't tell your parents I said to do that. But like, it was really like my own pursuit, right? I was like searching. I was just searching for, I didn't know, but I knew it was like not in a computer, right? So dropped out, took a community, like I'll condense all this, but took a community college drawing class and basically told the teacher, like, how do I get caught up on the last like 20-something years that I missed, or 18 years of whatever that I missed? So condensed it all into like a summer program, and then I applied to an art school, and I got in, which was like really, looking back, just like really crazy how that all played out. But then when I was in school, I had an art history class, and I saw we were going through a bunch of different movements and periods and styles, and it was all cool. But the first thing that's really spoke to me was this cut paper, like the synthetic cubism movement. And I've really, since the day I saw that till like today, and probably to the day I die, I'm going to be pursuing that. Like it's what speaks to me, right? So it's like, it's what, I'm most inspired by. And that's kind of how I went from there to here. And I've been refining it. What it looks like here, what you see now is not what it started as. Mm-hmm. But I've been refining it, for the last, however many years, like 12, 13, 14 years.
All right. Two things I want to talk about. One, I definitely, like, after a year of, like, really digging into, like, the fine art and, like, trying to work on that part of my brain and, like, the creative side, like, I definitely, once I started, like, shooting for a company again, I definitely saw the difference in my, like, ability to be able to conceptualize.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's very, very real to get beyond just, like, references that you would see on the internet, right? Like,
oh my
to
God.
Get back to, like, before, like, I don't know. You have people that are like you have very few. You come across a person every once in a while that's like just really different. Yeah. Like now, where you're just like, bro, this guy's just different.
Oh,
like he just does something But I feel like artists in those kind of like, I don't know what you call them, like earlier times, or in those like times where these movements were being. It's like these people are like, they're like really, really different.
Oh yeah, for sure.
like it's insane.
Yeah, for sure. Right now, like, I think we're at a point now where nothing's original, right? So nothing can truly be original, because I think that, you know, you can be influenced, right? And you can have things that are like truly like, I just think, you know, when you look back at Caravaggio, right? And this guy was the first guy to ever paint like stunning realism. People thought he sold his soul to the devil. People were like convinced. They were like, nobody can paint this real, right? And they were like that was the first time anyone had ever seen that, right? And before that, prior to that, we had very, you know, like you go back, we had, you know, cave paintings, and we had very, like,
primal.
Very primal, yeah, for sure. And we had very primal things, right? And then you fast forward, and Caravaggio just comes along, and the guy's just like a freak, and he's painting like stunning realism and very dramatic, and like people being crucified and decapitated, and people were like, whoa, this is crazy. And then you fast forward to other movements of art. You know, you can go through like neoclassicism, romanticism, like, you know, expressionism, and so you have all these different movements, and people were like, "Whoa, holy shit!" Like, you know, I think we're at a point now where it's all been done. But so, how do you take from all of those different things and then take who you are, put what makes you special? That sounds super corny, but it's like really true. Like,
take who you are,
right? It sounds like, but I really wholeheartedly, it's something, if you follow me on Instagram and Twitter, it's like the things that I'm most passionate about is like finding your own voice and being inspired, and like researching outside of just, you know, Cause and Basquiat and like all of these, like Murakami, and like, great, those guys are amazing. You're not them. They are them, and you're not going to be them. Like, be yourself though, which is way better, right? It's like, so yeah, you're right. I think we live in this sort of like now contemporary thing, but it's like art is like thousands of years old. Like, study, just go back, look at some shit, like, and make it your own. Like, or, you know, make it your own, but not by stealing.
Got you. Second thing I wanted to touch on is like, how did you come up, or how did you decide on? As you talk about like refining this process over the last 10 years and refining this specific medium, like how did you land on like invoking a signature color?
Oh,
and
yeah.
what what was that process?
Because I think I was just super picky, right? And I just I couldn't find anything that I liked, and I saw this color, and I just kept using it because I just hated everything else. So it was really just like, and then I just kept using it for everything. And then I was like, well, I wonder if anyone's gonna notice if I just, like, when I would do project, like when I'd pitch, you know, for companies, or I was like, maybe I just slide this color back in there and they won't notice. Like, and then I just stuck with it. And honestly, like, I had a gallery in New York, Christopher Henry was like, you should probably change your colors. And I was like, you know what? Like, if that guy's telling me I should do it, like, this is where, who the fuck am I? Like, I'm a nobody. This guy's like owns like 5 galleries in New York City. It's sort of that fine line of like arrogance, self-proclaimed brilliance, and like, you're just a fucking idiot type thing. Can I swear on this?
Yeah, you're.
Okay,
I mean,
yeah.
it's all good, bro.
But it's like, but you know what I mean? But I'm like, man, like, I think 3
F words in.
Yeah.
Can I curse?
Can I? I'm like, oh, shit.
Go for it, bro.
But it's like, it's almost like you got to pick and choose your battles. Like, I can take critique, and I certainly have. I mean, you can see my work has evolved, but it's like, you know, and I certainly change the colors up every now and then, like, for certain project. But the basis of who I am for my personal work, that's just what I choose to use. And I mean, is like, color certainly can evoke different emotions. So using the same color like the entire time, you certainly make it more difficult to tell a story or a narrative or evoke emotion if you're using the same color. But then it's like, you figure out other ways to invoke emotion. Like, maybe I use different compositions or different patterns, or there's different things that go along with it. So, I mean, I guess, does that answer your question?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's important. Because for me, like, obviously there's like hella orange in Analogue Luxury.
Oh, yeah.
And like, it was much more of a kind of like a feeling. Like, it took a year and like a year and a half for me to even figure out what Analogue Luxury was, for me to get a name, for me to like, you know what I mean, for it to come together. And it's still continuing to like pour in. But like, it was just something that like felt.
Yeah.
Like, it was
my God, yeah.
Yeah, it was just like, this is it. Like, it's just going to be
well, you know. And I think that's a testament to you, for sure, because you're just, I when we first connected right away, like, I could tell, I'm like, this dude has a voice. Like, he has a voice and he has a sense of self. And that's like, my favorite saying is like, you'll never find yourself as an artist if you don't find yourself as a person. So like a lot of people are out here like stealing styles. It's because they don't have a voice. They have no sense of identity. Their identity is based on like, let me make this shit look really cool and I'll get it on Complex. And it's like, or let me make this look like, dude, I'm the first to tell you, I'm a huge Basket fan. I'm a huge Cause fan. I love Shepard Fairey. I love all of them. But like, just like these people that are stealing their styles, like you don't have a voice. And the other one I love is when people are like, oh, man, I can't draw a straight line. And I'm like, well, fucking good. Because that means whatever comes out of your hand is going to be authentic and original. Like as original as it can be. Like I like when people can't draw a straight line because that means like it's going to be expressive. It's going to be unique, to them. But meeting you, I could tell right away. I was like, man, this dude just like, he's got a sense of self. He's got a sense of like, and I'm not surprised that you said, oh, it felt right, or like, because that's very much how you operate.
Yeah, for sure, man. I appreciate it.
And you can tell in your body of work, too. You can tell, like, the things that come out are very authentic. They're very you. I mean, you straddle that line between contemporary and, unique ideas very well. And that, to me, as an artist, is the most inspiring. When I see other artists or other creatives that are, doing something unique or doing something in their own way.
Hey, man, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that allowed for us to really hit it off was just our both of our passions for like streetwear.
Yeah.
And when you're like, oh yeah, I think that first conversation, you're like, yeah, like I just used to run this like shop, blah 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 blah,
yeah.
and we're talking about like Charlotte brands and this that, and the third. It was just like, he was like, yeah, like we had a store, it's on Newberry, like,
oh yeah.
ASAP guys were out there on the truck, like it was
crazy,
insane. Yeah, like so give what was that phase of your life like? How did like where does that fall on the timeline? And like what was that phase like for you? Like what was going on with you at that time?
Just still like very like just searching. Like I sort of always feel like I'm searching. It's like it's really never about like, again, I'm like full of cornball lines today. So it's not about the destination. It's about the journey.
Bro, okay, before you keep going, that reminds me. There's the very first or second episode of Hey Arnold. Gerald says that.
What?
When they're dressed like hippies.
Oh, yeah.
He says, the journey is the destination, man.
Oh, my God.
As a third grader, I have no idea what that means,
Yeah.
but I go back and watch that because I have like the whole season on DVD. Yeah. And I'm like, bruh, Gerald just dropped a gym.
Yeah, crazy. Gerald's like doing acid and he's like way ahead of everybody. Yeah, man.
My bad. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, it's fine.
But you were searching during that time.
Yeah, just very much like, so growing up in like New England, it was just, it was like very blue collar, very like, I was always just, there was nothing really accessible, right? To me, it was just like people were either into like, which is like, I was certainly into it, but there was always something greater. Like there was sports, New England is like tech, sports, medical, right? And you had that, and you're very blue collar. So a lot of like, like trade skilled jobs. And so not a lot of culture, not a lot of streetwear, not a lot of like art and fashion. And so I was always just like kind of searching, and it, I think when Twitter first came out, I got on and I sort of connected with some dudes in Boston, and we ended up hitting it off. And they had just got a grant for they went to Northeastern University, and they had just got a grant for, I think it was like constructing clothing, something along those. So we're talking 2000. At this point, we're talking 2010, so 9 years ago, and I mean, streetwear as we know it now is really, I mean, you can go back to like the Stussies and like the really OG stuff, but like streetwear as we know it now is probably like 10, 15 years old, like the contemporary streetwear. So still pretty early in that uprising. We were in Boston, and Karmaloop was obviously out of Boston, so Greg Selko. So Selko was like in Boston, and we were all in Boston, and it was just like this right place, right time sort of thing. And I connected with these guys who were like adventuring into streetwear. And my senior project in school was fine art, but based around streetwear. So like using sneakers as sculpture, and how do I take something like commercial, like clothing, and sort of create it as like that was my way to around the system. Because if I wasn't doing something traditionally fine art, they were literally going to kick me out of school. So I was like, okay, so how can I spin this? And I was like, oh, sneakers is sculpture, right? So like So I was always into that, and then I guess like I'm trying to like think back, but like we got together, we started selling sneakers and or like streetwear. We were doing our own line, and we had this opportunity to do a brick and mortar on Newbury Street, which is like the premier fashion street, or like like all the retail shops. So like you have like one Newbury Street, like literally the number one is like Chanel, Burberry, and then you go all the way down to the end of Newbury Street. The higher numbers would be like Urban Outfitters and American Apparel and all that stuff. So like it was a pretty premier fashion street, right? So we had this opportunity where a startup had left, and they sort of heard our story. We had some buzz around Boston, and they would basically just like, it had already been paid for, like you can have our space for the remaining 6 months. So we took that and started throwing parties and started doing like a really like community-based thing where it was like we would have kids like, I don't know, like it's funny looking back now, but like Mikey Christmas and Cousin Stiz, right? Two like really big names in the indie rap world right now, but they were like hanging out at our shop, right? And it was like we created this sort of community thing, and we had like a truck that got gutted out. It was like an ice cream truck, got gutted out, and one of our business partners, Derek, turned that into the first like in Boston, like a mobile boutique. So like at the time it was like everyone had food trucks. We were like a boutique clothing truck, but we wouldn't just go to events. And Twitter was brand new, right? So brand new. So like we would just post up and leave addresses on our Twitter, and people would just show up and we would sell out, right? So that was like, again, that's 2010, so 9 years ago. And ASAP Rocky's team heard about what we were doing, and they basically hired Derek to go on tour with him, and that's how the whole collab with ASAP started. And then we did an in-store with him. We didn't do an in-store, but Kendrick came to the thing, and like Dom came over, and like so it ended up like in Boston. It was a pretty big deal, but it was like again right place, right time with Karma Loop and streetwear, and so in summary, that's kind of how that all thing came about.
That's crazy, man. That's super super wild. And then to see like I'm give me and Dev some pats on the back just to get you and Selko in the same room.
Oh, that was crazy. Yeah.
See.
I hadn't seen him in forever too. Yeah. I was so happy to have him be there for you guys. I mean, he was someone that really inspired me, right? So when we were coming up, like this guy he went from taking money from vendors, like borrowing money from like hot dog vendors to start Karma Loop, to having like at one point they had done $1 billion in sales. So it was like, and that's the dream right there, man. Like he was a Boston legend.
That's wild. He's still a legend.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah.
He's still a legend for sure. So what's on where are you at with it now, man? Like you've kind of gone through all of these different kind of different phases. You've like started at the bottom and truly worked your way up. You've had the like large Instagram influencer follower thing, and like you just did like a hard reset. Like what was it, like a year ago now, year and a half ago now, where you kind of like were just like, this isn't, something's not right. I'm gonna start over, and like in this day and age, we're like, I guess like quote unquote social currency is such a thing, and if you have over like 10K followers or whatever, you could like literally pretty much do whatever you want, and from a like working from yourself perspective. But yet you decided to kind of go a different route and like purge that account and like start brand new and start fresh. Like where's your headspace at now? What was the reason for that? Like anything, I guess, in that realm.
For sure. I mean, just a lot of that was like public meltdown, but like, I mean, if we're being honest, no, but for sure there was a part of it there that like, I'm obviously an artist, so I have emotional tendencies to like sort of melt down, but like, I'm able to sort of figure out where that comes from, right? So that came from a feeling of inauthenticity, and that's like a big thing for me, which is why I get so angry at like the copying thing. It's like, I understand like being inspired, but I just felt very inauthentic for a number of reasons. I felt, because at the time I was licensing a lot of my work, and it was just like you could type in like Kyle Mosher art, and like you could buy like like a towelette on like Amazon for like 98 cents, and it was like my art on it, because I was just licensing it out to everybody. I was just like, yeah. And then at the time, like when I first started licensing, I was in a place where I was just fucking broke, right? So like licensing came along, and it was like this was a revenue stream that was just mailbox money. Like I'd wake up every month, I had at the time 3 or 4 different licensing deals. So it was like some of them were quarterly, some of them were monthly, But it was just like money being deposited into my bank account, right? It's just royalties. And I was like, yeah. But then I was like, wait a minute. I don't want to be on a towel on Amazon. I don't want to be in a
in TJ Maxx?
Yeah. Oh my God. That was the big one. So I got into TJ Maxx, Home Goods, and that was the moment when I walked into there and I was like, oh fuck. Like, I fucked up. Ooh, yeah, that was someone was sending me pictures too. They were like, I was like, fuck. So like that was a moment of meltdown too, where I was like, oh man, like that's not what I wanted my brand to be. And then like the people that were following me at the time were just like, you got to be in touch with your audience. You really got to know who you are, who your voice is, and who you're trying to speak to. And like, getting DMs from like, 48-year-old recently divorced mothers like, hey, I bought your towel. It's like not the look. That was not it. That's not it, Chief. Like, yeah. So I was like, I was just just in a place of like, there was a bunch of other shit going on. Like I had my shoulder surgery, which is a big thing. Like I had a big surgery on my shoulder where I couldn't do anything for really like 8 or 9 months. So like, just sitting around and not working. And when I'm at my most destructive when I'm not working, like I'm not creating. So I was in a bad place, but as spontaneous and as emotional as that decision seemed, it was very much calculated. Like the decision to execute was spontaneous in the moment, but the planning of like my brand is not where I want it to be was something that I thought out for a long time. It was just in that moment I was like, I got to execute. So I deleted my Instagram and then I just started over. And I was like, whoever wants to fuck with me, follow me. And it was like, I went from somewhere in 11,000 and only like 600 people came over. But 600 people that were like, there's a term like you have fans and you have disciples. And like disciples are what you want. You want people that really just like are there for you. And it felt more real because when I posted things, like it just felt like the people that were talking back to me and that I was having this dialogue with were the people that I should have been talking to. And so that's sort of where that came from. And I mean, honestly, like it was right. It was really difficult, but it was right. And I don't regret it. Obviously don't regret any of that, but it allowed me to not only reset physically, but I reset emotionally, metaphysically, and there's that hippie shit again. Like, but honestly, like that cleansed my palate. It cleansed everything, and it allowed me to sort of reframe my creative existence. Of like, I didn't want to just be this guy who licensed art. Like, I wanted to go back to creating art, like the original stuff. Cut back all of the licensing, make it way more exclusive. And I guess here we are now.
Yeah. So how long was that licensing period for you?
Well, so how that works is different companies structure it differently, but sometimes they'll do a 2 or 4 or even an 8 year. 8's really rare, but usually a 2 to 4 year period is what they'll sign an agreement, and then after those 2 or 4, they'll do one automatic renewal for another 2 to 4. So usually in total it's 4 to 8 years, you just basically you sign away everything, right? You don't have any control where that stuff goes. Like you can certainly be like, hey, I think, but at the end of the day, you can't be like, no, I don't want it to be in Home Goods because they're like, well, you signed a fucking contract.
Is that like the equivalent of like a Rapper 360 deal?
Yeah, 100%. And that you know what's so good that you brought up music is a lot of the stuff that I do, my business model, I parallel way more with music than I do with art because, and we can go down this rabbit hole because this is my favorite, is that the way the art game is set up now is that art is where music was 15, 20 years ago. So that's where art is right now, meaning when music had Napster and LimeWire and musicians were having the power stripped, but they didn't realize that as that power was being stripped from them, they were actually getting the power back because it was making record labels obsolete.
Right.
So that's why when you see amazing stuff happening now with like, Chance the Rapper, I think he was the first indie artist to ever win a Grammy. Like that shit is amazing because he did that with like, so that's where art is right now. We're in like the LimeWire, Wild West, like Napster phase where like. That's
a really good parallel. I like that.
And everyone's stealing each other's art and it's just no one fucking knows. They're like, I'm Basquiat and I'm Khan. And it's like, we don't fucking know. We're just everyone's everyone, right? So it's like, it's just really like, it's crazy right now. It's madness on Instagram. Yeah. Like when people like, I'm scrolling through. I mean, I spend 3 to 4 hours just like I'm studying everything, Instagram, like all like any sort of social. What's the next? But I'm seeing so much art every day, and it's like I see 10 to 20 people a day that all their styles look alike, and I'm just like, nobody's regulating this, and nobody even cares. People are still selling it, and they're in galleries, and I'm just like, man, we are really in the Wild West right now. So like at some point, this is going to correct itself, or something's going to happen, right? Something's going to happen where this balloon is going to pop, or this bubble is going to pop, and it's going to correct itself, and we're going to find a little more structure. And galleries are obsolete. Like they're becoming. That's why they're charging now for you to hang in your fucking gallery. It's like you're supposed to be representing me. Why am I paying you? So it's like, you're seeing this sort of crumble, and I don't know where we're at in the trajectory, but I'm just telling you, like, mark my words, like. There's going to be some major shift in the art world, and artists are going to be, we sort of talked about this too, like artists are going to be visual influencers, right? Like they're going to be able to get endorsements, like they're going to be able to leverage their creative existence, like their art, into things like endorsements, into, anything that athletes, actors, musicians are able to do, like with power, like visual artists will be there. We're just kind of behind because we've been like painting in cabins by ourselves for like the last 2,000 years, but we're coming out, man. We're like, fuck y'all, we want some endorsement deals.
That kind of reminds me, I forgot who it was. He's a clothing designer, but he just like designed a Lexus.
Oh yeah.
And it had like Nike tires.
Yeah,
and
Nike
all that.
tires. That shit was crazy.
Hard. It was wild. I can't remember his name.
So I'm glad you saw that, because that's what we're on to now is seeing visual artists do these.
That's gonna bother me. Can somebody Google that? And
I just saw it. It was
holler the name.
Yeah, I'll tell you. Yeah.
This is where the live part kicks in. It's how you know this joint is recorded live.
Yeah, that's what makes it better, though. We're out here just. The guy is John Elliott.
Yes, John Elliott. Yes.
Yeah.
That joint was crazy.
Yeah. You did a Lexus with Nike tires, like inspired by the Dunks, or Air Force Ones. Yeah.
Crazy.
So that's what I'm talking about, though. Like you're gonna see more of that, and you're seeing. I mean, you're already seeing it. Like the big dogs. I mean, you're seeing it with Virgil, and you're seeing it with Shepard Fairey's doing the shit with like Hublot. I mean, he's done stuff with Hennessy. Cause has done stuff with Hennessy. Like these alignments with brands and visual artists. I mean, it's still. It's early stages. I mean, and they're in the past, it's been there, but now you're going to see it come.
It's like the standard, as opposed to being like, oh snap, they actually gave him a Hennessy bottle. It's like, oh no, like they're doing a series of Hennessy bottles.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, they're gonna. It's again, brands are starting to recognize the power of visual artists, right? And then that's a whole other conversation too, because that's why I say I'm like a multi-disciplinary artist, because I'm classically trained, but it's like. I try to take those techniques and bring them into contemporary things like I don't want to take away from fashion designers. Please, I would never. But it's like or interior designers, for example. But I want to do all of those things.
Right.
Like I want to do those things and put my own spin on it. Like, but as a visual artist, so I think that idea of maybe I don't know the special things that you learn in fashion design school or interior design school, but that's a whole new twist on things, because I don't it's a different perspective, right? So I'm not saying that I'm not saying what they can do is easy in any way. They went to school, or they spent these people spend their lives doing interior design and fashion design, but I'd like to put like a sort of spin on it. And I have been. I mean, I've been doing that my entire career. That's why I said it's the hardest question when people ask me, what do you do? It's like, I guess I'm an artist, but what does that even mean anymore, right?
Yeah, I've had a kind of a challenge with that too. Even when folks introduce me, they don't really know how to introduce me.
Yeah.
They're like, this is Dave. He does creative shit. Kinda.
Yeah.
But he has he's a photographer too, though. But he's like, So I mean, even that,
Yeah.
Like it's been, and it's something I've struggled with. And because my background is business, I'm working on trying to figure out how to strip the business jargon out of it.
Yeah.
Even though it's it works sometimes, depending on who you're talking to.
Yeah.
But just in general, I don't know. It's just I want it to be less businessy, but I also don't want it to be too
oh, it's hard.
Too abstract.
Yeah, it's so hard, man. Because then, it all depends on the audience too. Yeah. It's my worst thing. I'll never be able to do an elevator pitch. This is everyone's biggest joke about me, because people are like, I don't know what to say. It's I can't shut up, right? I just because I eat, sleep, and breathe this. Every day of my life, I spend hours immersed in this. I live it. I study it all. And so when people are like, what do you do? I'm like, I don't fucking know. I guess I'm an artist, right? Like,
That works. That works. Where you want to go now, man?
I mean, it's like YouTube. When I watch a YouTube video,
Yeah.
like I'm gonna start at like, newest somebody dissing somebody, and then I end up at like how to plant peonies, and I'm like, oh, I'm a gardener now. Like 4 hours later, I'm like, yo, I should make a garden. It's gonna be crazy. Like, yeah, I don't know.
YouTube will do that to you, man. That algorithm is crazy.
Oh, it's really nuts. Yeah, it's like recommended. My favorite comments on the recommended are like, how did I end up here? It's just like weird videos of like guy cleans a quarter with his tongue, and you're like, I kind of want to see this. Like.
I'm glad I haven't seen that one in my recommended yet. I do not want to see that one in my recommended for sure. I got you. Here we go. Not too long ago, like around the time we first linked, you did the collaboration with the beer brand.
Oh,
and
yeah,
they had you do the
Radaburger?
portrait. Yeah. And they had you do the portrait. So how'd you land on kind of like adding these kind of like contemporary like pop figures and pop culture figures in your signature style as like portraits?
I mean, I've always been into. It's weird because like I already showed my hand, but growing up in like New England and Canada, I mean, I've always been into hip hop. Always. I mean, Wu-Tang was the first album I ever owned. It's like I might be dating myself there. I spoke at Providence High School, and I was like, these kids are like 16. I'm like, yeah, Wu-Tang, and it was like crickets. And I was like, fuck, I'm old. Like, yeah, I was like,
Wu-Tang's for the kids.
Yeah,
Never mind.
I was
Never
like,
mind. You guys are the kids. Never mind.
Yeah, and I said that, and I was like, maybe they're going to like that. And I was like, nope. Like,
bro, this is what threw me off. I went to go back to speak at Winston-Salem State, where I went to school. And I was like, have you guys, I was like playing like some music beforehand. And I was like, yeah, you guys listen to the Clips? They're like, isn't that like, didn't like Pusha T like rap with his cousin or something like that? And I was like,
yikes. Yeah. Damn, man. Time flies.
Yo, I was like, okay, 30's around the corner.
Yeah.
It's cool. It's really around the corner. All right, that's what's up.
But yeah, I mean, just like fully immersed. I mean, like I had to, like, again, super dated right now. Like I had the Walkman. Like I was just so into music, and I was always very introspective. Like not introverted, just very always in my own head, thinking about things and drawing, and it just, I mean, I was drawing, even sixth grade, I was drawing like my own Jordans. I was like, how do I parlay into being like that? And this is like, and then remember Jenkos, the jeans?
Mm-hmm.
This is super embarrassing right now. We're about to tell embarrassing ass stories. Yeah, so I was like designing Jenkos. I was like, yeah, we're Jenkos and Jordans, and like I was just always into, for lack of better words, like just things that were in pop culture, right?
Yeah.
Like that I just was always fascinated by that world. So fast forward, I mean, again, when I was doing the cut paper stuff, like looking at synthetic cubism, I was like, well, how do I take this and put my own spin on it, right? Mm-hmm. And like synthetic cubism was, it was sort of figurative in the sense that they were creating usually still lifes or musical instruments with cut paper, and it was cut paper as well as like usually charcoal or like Conti or sometimes wet media like acrylic, and they were putting these things together, and it was like the texture, the aged look, the way it had sort of cubism involved in the shapes of the instruments, and I was like how do I take that and make it contemporary? And the easiest thing to do was like, well, I'm going to start doing portraits, because I was doing like really surreal abstract shit. And then honestly, like I was watching, again, just drop the fucking age right now, MTV2. And
because watching MTV2 was the thing at some
right?
point. It was the
and
thing. It was like MTV's like all TRL, and I want to watch TV shows.
Yeah.
So I'm going to MTV2.
Right? And I saw...
Is this still a channel?
Yes. Is it? Oh, shit.
All right, that's what's up. Cool.
And I saw a Currency music video. I don't even remember. I think it might have been... I forget which one it was, but I saw a Currency... And that was when it was like, I'm going to do Currency. Like, and that was the first one that I ever did. Mm-hmm. And that was like the old style, like still cut paper, but it was all that vintage. It was strictly vintage newspaper. Where now I use like pattern paper, wallpaper. But I did the Currency one, and it was like that moment of when you know.
Yeah.
Like when you're creating and you're in like in the zone, or
you're
however
like,
you want to.
You're like, this is it.
Yeah. You're just like,
this
damn. Like it started, and again, but this is. I was studying cut paper for I had done it all through school. and then I had done a year after school. So we're talking at least 3 to 4 years into just studying cut paper. Did I finally stumble upon and it seems so obvious now, but at the time it was just like, I was just fumbling around, like how do I make this into something? And then the currency one came about, and then that's how the background color came about, because I was like, I need something to go with like all this vintage newspaper, and then it just fell into. That's honestly, it went from there. I did currency, I did Pharrell, and I did Kanye, and that was the first time I ever got featured on Complex. Was that, and that's sort of like how it got jumped from Complex to
That's back when you get on one blog and then they'd all.
Yeah. It was all just them stealing each other's content. And so you'd be like, well, what? I only have to pick one because you're all going to post about it.
Right.
Yeah. So it just, that was honestly the first, I guess, how it went from something more fine art to contemporary, right? So it's like, that's why when I'm like, I was really adamant about having my own style. Like, I was like, I want something to call my own. Like, and I don't care. And paper was so whack when people were like, it was fucking. When I was in school, everybody was like, this is garbage. Like, don't use paper. Like, everyone was, at the time, everyone was doing bright colors, really flat colors. Like, this is, it was very like early cause stuff. So like that was the thing. Everyone wanted bright, flat, like vector, like. And I was like, I want texture and old. And even now, like, that's some of my biggest pushback from galleries or clients, are just like, it's too old, it's too textured. But it's like, I don't want to do anything that's not me, right? So it's like, I guess I don't even know what the fucking question was. But
it was asking about how you got to portraits.
Oh, yeah, so I nailed that.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, right on the head. Bingo. Dude, how much time do you spend, like, finding old paper? Because you're like you do these like massive 40-inch you know what I mean, pieces. You know what I mean, like, didn't you? What was the piece that you said took like the Medusa head? It took like 1,000
or 6 feet tall.
Yeah, like 1,000 pieces of paper.
Yeah,
like 1,000.
That shit was crazy.
Where do you find 1,000 pieces of paper, like vintage paper that like fit into your framework? Like how is that like?
Well,
not that you don't have to give away your source. You don't have to give away the plug. But I'm just saying, like, how? Yeah, like.
Well, estate sales, estate sales are big. Yeah, like, then you can go to estate sales. You can go to you got to weed through like, well, am I gonna die today? Like Craigslist, like, well. This could be it.
It's like, yo, this could be it, but like, yo, that library is looking.
Yeah, they entice you. They know. They just know. Like, guy sends you a picture of like old library. You're like, woo, this could be it. This could be my day that I die. But there's a lot of paper in there. And I don't know, just like Craigslist ads. Like some people now just email me. Like honestly, where they're just like, yo, I know you're the paper dude. Like, do you want some paper? And then you can go to you can go to some more of you can go to like some of the contemporary stores that have stuff, but it's a good balance. Vintage wallpaper is really cool too. It's just about online. We have this thing called the internet now. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Search things.
That thing is insane. That beast of a monster. Shout out to the internet, though. It's the reason we're able to do this.
Can we get the internet to sponsor us?
Can we get the internet to sponsor us?
Sponsored by the internet.
Bruh, that might have to turn into the collab.
Oh, yeah. That'd be crazy.
You guys might have got our collab idea live just now.
That was crazy.
That was wild.
Don't steal that.
Please don't. We have to put it out before we put the episode out. Oh, this episode will air in 6 months.
Yeah. After we have to secure that domain.
What was the
millennial breakfast?
Yeah.
How did that even come about?
I don't know, bro.
Oh, it's because I eat a clean juice every day. Shout out to Clean Juice.
That's what it was. You were like doing your practice, like, okay, I'm going to Clean Juice. I'm about to get my millennial breakfast.
And then I bought the domain Millennial Breakfast. I was like, yo, I'm gonna see if this domain exists. And I secured all of the corresponding social with that too. But yeah, so I own Millennial Breakfast. I don't know where that's gonna go, but if you guys have any ideas,
we should wait till like the word millennial is dead.
Yeah. Oh, right. We could make it so ridiculous too. What else? I bought this is the weird shit. I buy so many domains. I bought Exotic Dinner Club, and I was thinking of creating fake menus around ostrich eggs and T-Rex, or no. It was really pushing the buttons. I was gonna do bald eagle eggs, scrambled bald eagle eggs. People were gonna be, but I was gonna make it look real and just create a whole site, kind of like what that dude did in London, who created that fake restaurant, and he went to the top of the travel thing.
I did not hear about that.
Vice
I
just-
did hear about that. I
Vice
did hear
just
about that.
did a documentary on
Yeah,
him.
for sure.
Yeah, but something like really rogue and renegade like that. Where
That
I
good
was
Fire
just-
Festival restaurant is on the way.
Yeah. Did you guys see that? That shit was crazy.
It was, bro. The bad part is, like, Fire Festival could have been an amazing idea.
Yeah.
Like, it was like, bro, just, like, wait 18 months.
Yeah, that was crazy. But that's when you like that's the whole that was his whole
Yeah,
thing.
that's the
He
thing.
was just secure
100%.
secure the money and just fuck
100%.
everyone.
That's insane.
He even got Ja, man. He got Ja Rule. He got everybody. He got all those models.
Ja Rule got himself.
Oh, right.
He got himself. He thought he won. He still thinks he
If
won.
you told me that there was going to be a fake festival that would cause all this controversy and all this shit about it and Ja Rule would be behind it, I'd be like, I can see that.
Bro, the funniest thing is in the Hulu documentary, they sampled the Dave Chappelle joint. It was like, oh, it's a national tragedy.
Oh, yeah.
I gotta find Ja Rule.
Yeah. Yeah.
I gotta find Ja Rule.
Yeah.
Oh, what would Ja Rule do?
Oh, my goodness, man.
Dave Chappelle's so
He's
good.
he's had a rough year this year, man. That Milwaukee Bucks game, that shit was bad.
It
man.
was, bro.
That was like you know I get super embarrassed like easily like about anything. So like I have to pause it and like I was watching on YouTube. So I was like I'm gonna pause it and I watched it for a little bit and I was like oh and I had to pause it and walk away. And I had to like mentally prepare myself. Like I could never watch Jackass because that shit always embarrassed me. Like when like I don't know. I don't like seeing people like.
Word.
I just can't. It makes me feel really uncomfortable.
Why?
I don't know. Like
That's strange.
You know, it's just
watching
weird.
other people hurt. Well, I guess watching other people. I was about to say something weird. Watching other people hurt themselves is strange to you.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Now I sound like the weird ass. No, I'm the weirdo.
Or even just like, I don't know. We're in a wormhole right now,
Bro,
man.
the internet is such a crazy place. Speaking of internet, like, and I guess we've been talking about music and stuff too.
Yeah.
Like one of the things that also like inspired me that I think like I was like 2 or 3 years ahead of myself is like I released the Internet Has You Gassed like capsule collection.
Yeah.
And it was like inspired by Because of the Internet, like Childish Gambino's album.
Yeah.
And I think in terms of just the whole concept of like it being like I don't know, just like the internet reaching like scale was like a thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it
For
was just
sure.
like,
Are we peak internet yet?
yeah, I think we are, bro. I think we're peak internet.
Yeah. I think because I mean, I meant that, I sort of meant that quasi as a joke, but like, I think that a lot of the stuff and really analog luxury, right? Analog.
Right.
Like a lot of, we lost, it's weird. Everything comes in cycles. Like if you look at fashion trends and you look at like how a lot of these heritage brands are coming back
100%.
and like, and it just sort of comes in waves, obviously. But like, there's a meme going around. It was like, everyone was like waiting by their inbox to get an email, and like they were like, "Well, fuck regular mail." And now it's like the opposite. Like people like want regular mail.
It's like I have a letter.
Yeah, and it's like this national treasury thing, like where it's like, oh shit. Like when I send out like a lot of these stuff, like I just send it out for free, right? And like people are like, oh, I didn't check my mail for like 2 weeks because I forgot that I get mail. Like you know what I mean? Like everything's paperless now, right? So like I think basically what you're saying is, I mean, just to compliment what you're saying is like, yeah, we're certainly seeing that swing back, right? Where things are going to be more analog or things are going to be more like this, right? You know, like
100%.
We're coming back to things that make us human beings,
Right.
which is dialogue and communication and
Right.
not being, behind the screen or like living through the shit that's on Instagram right now, which I think it's an incredibly important tool, but I think that we've definitely reached peak Instagram for sure. Like,
the question is like, what was everybody's day like when Instagram didn't work for like 16 hours or whatever it was? Like,
yeah. I was having meltdowns.
No, I really feel like Zuckerberg was just like, I'm gonna press the button.
Yeah, I'm just gonna do it.
I'm gonna press the button today.
He's having like a bad day, and he's like, I want to make everyone else angry. They need to be angry with me. What was the one that was like? It was so good. It was something about like there's a lot of models right now that are no longer models. It was the best. It was so good.
Speaking of Zuckerberg, it reminds me of when he went to like testify in front of Congress or whatever, and I saw it on Deezus and Mero.
Oh,
and
yeah.
they had the jokes like he was a robot.
Oh yeah, that's
and it was just
crazy.
He was just like, they would like do like computer noises while he did something. So he would like sip his water to like sip water.
Yeah.
It's like, how did he prepare? It's like,
Yeah.
I'll go to you go to like Men's Warehouse and get a suit. It's like, I'll take one suit human sized.
I was Team Zuck for a long time, but now like I'm like,
it's weird.
Fuck Facebook, man. There's
It's
a lot of things that we don't know
weird.
that are happening back there, and I don't even know.
It's a lot of data, man.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, for sure, it's weird. Like the internet, like we all of us pretty much grew up with the internet. Now I'm afraid of the internet. Like I was never afraid of the internet. Now I'm like, fuck, man. Like just not to get into anything deep, like too deep, but
Right.
like shit that's happening in our country, and like there's like some fuckery going on, man. And I'm like, maybe I should just delete everything. And,
Be a nomad.
yeah, we talked about that too, about how
Yeah.
you and I just want to like delete everything, and
Bro, if I could, I would.
oh, it would be the best.
It would be good, but it would also be like, I don't know. I have a homegirl who has like no social media, or she like barely uses it.
Yeah.
And it's always like, it's so weird to me, like what our frame of reference is now.
Yeah.
It's like now I'm thinking and like talking about memes, or we're in conversation, I'm talking about a meme or something, and she
Yeah.
has like no idea. She's just like,
right. Yeah, that must be weird.
It
I feel
is.
like I don't even know what you're
but
talking
I feel
about.
like she's like super liberated
Yeah.
by that. You know
For
what I'm
sure.
saying? Like in
Yeah.
a certain degree. So it's like,
damn. There's definitely like, that's crazy.
but it's like, how do you run a business in 2019 not using the internet?
I was watching Project Runway the other day, like the old ones, like when they first came out, and like these people are designing. This is gonna like sound. This is gonna be simultaneously the most dumb thing that I've ever said in my life, but also maybe the most profound. So these people are designing outfits, right? And all they're doing is sketching. They don't have iPhones. They don't have computers. Like it's from here.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, but I think back, it's like, man, every day of my life, like my reference points, if I'm trying to reference something, like I'm looking online, I'm searching,
Right.
but it's like this predated iPhones. This
Right.
predated so they're designing their outfits based on just,
That might be a crazy like exercise if you could just like maybe go to the old practice of referencing. I mean, I know that's one thing that I try and do, or a lot of things that I did last year. It was like, and I learned this from my time at the McCall and the Innovation Institute, is just that like those life experiences are what allow for you to be creative.
Yeah.
So you should be like the things that we have deemed because of like the context that we live in terms of like time is money, blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
Like, but those things that we deem as wasting time are the things that actually inspire you the most.
Yeah, for sure.
It's
Oh my
almost
God.
like watching old movies.
Yeah.
You know, going for a walk, like people watching, like
yeah.
listening to old albums, like, you know, walking through, just walking somewhere you've never been before.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Just going for a walk somewhere random.
For sure.
Is like, that's where it's like you're sitting, you know, at home at 3 a.m. and when you have insomnia, or you're like on your like 4-hour YouTube rabbit hole, and then
Yeah.
like some crazy idea smacks you, or you wake up in the morning, you get in the
sure.
shower and something smacks you in the back of the head.
Yeah.
And you're like, wow.
Well, like that's where when people ask, like, what I see from people who are professional, like artists or professional musicians, I think that the X factor, people think it's talent and it's not. The X factor is really like, it's knowing how to be a professional, right? So
Yeah.
what does that mean?
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like
yeah.
it's like for some of the things that I had to learn, it's like when I'm not feeling like I want to create, like that's where like just years of experiences come in, where I just push through it and I just force myself, right? So it's like it's and that's not all the time, but it's like, you know, it's just discipline, right? So
Right.
like I'll like you said, like if I find myself in that wormhole, or if I'm looking for something, like I'm searching, it's like, okay, I know enough now to be self-aware and introspective enough to be like, okay, right now this isn't working, whatever it is I'm doing. So maybe I go for a walk, or maybe I listen to music, or maybe I look at sculpture, or maybe I look at a whole different time period of art, or a whole different time period of music, or something ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like, and one of the best things I ever learned in art school, honestly, like was like when you're trying to create something and you're trying to make it really good, and you're having a hard time, make it really bad. Like make it as bad as you can. Like just be like, this is awful, and just allow yourself to go to that space, because then you're letting go of like expectations, you're letting go of like your ego, and you're just expressing. You're going to the most primal form of expression and creation, which is just like getting it all out. So, I mean, I guess sort of to complement what you were saying, it's just like, yeah, it's all of these different things make up, you know, who we are as artists, as individuals. And, you know, a lot of times, sometimes you have to be unconscious when you create, or sometimes you have to be very conscious and in the moment if you like to have that discipline to do those other things.
For sure. I'm gonna make a little hard pivot, and I don't want to stay here too long, but it's always necessary until I get my my first non-Charlotte guest, I'm always going to ask the Charlotte question.
Oh God.
So like obviously like you're not from here.
Yeah.
You moved here, and you started to like, well, you not started to, but you continued to, build your brand and do what you were doing from the fine art perspective. But like, what was your experience like coming here and getting entrenched? If you feel like you're even entrenched or a part of, the art scene or like whatever. Like, what's your perspective on?
Well, I mean, I feel like everywhere I've gone, I've always been like I've always felt like an outsider in anything I've ever done in life. Anything. It's just always. Maybe it's just me being hypersensitive and hyper self-aware of everything. Like, I've always just felt, maybe that's my own insecurities. I mean, I don't know. But in terms of, like, feeling like I'm entrenched in anything, like, there are certain parts of the city and there's certain people that I feel really close to and that I have really authentic, meaningful relationships with. And then there are people that I'm just like, you're super fucking fake. Like, you know what I mean? Like, this is, and I don't know. There's like Charlotte felt a lot different when I first moved here. It feels very cliquey now. It feels like it feels like the city was searching for an identity. It was the layover city, right? Is that what they used to call it? Like, 'cause people used to fly in and take off, and bands and musicians would pass over it, and now it's like that tweet, the genius tweet that you put out, like Charlotte just let her hair down, right? Type of thing. It's like, I feel like everything's happening so fast in this city that there's a lot of things that are being missed, and there's also like, and that's part of just a city growing, but I also feel like there's like cliques happening, and it's like, it's just weird. It's a weird sort of thing. It's like, it really is like, not to contradict your tweet, but it's like, it feels like Charlotte's the girl who was like the ugly duckling, and now she's like getting very attractive and like starting to get attention, and it sort of seems like she's growing too fast, and like, or he's growing too fast, or whatever Charlotte may be. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. What was my experience like? I mean, I came from Boston, and I lived in Italy. I lived in Florida. I lived in Canada. Like, I've lived in a bunch of different places. I feel like, with that being said, I know that was a lot of negative stuff, but with that being said, I think the people that I've made relationships with here are some of the best relationships I have ever made in my life. And I think that Charlotte there are people here that are very eager to incubate creative talent or incubate anything like music. Doesn't have to, when I say creative, I mean any of that umbrella. I've found some really interesting people that are willing to incubate that and really help me. I can only speak my experiences, like grow as an artist and be there. But I've also seen a lot of negative shit that like just is is a turn off for sure. Not like in the art world for sure, but also like in a lot of other stuff. But I mean, I know that all sounds like negative. I love it here. I mean, I really do love it here, and I think that we live in a time where there's 7.9 billion people on this planet. So for their excuse to be like, well, I don't live in an art city. Well, I'm like, you have the internet. You can literally connect with anybody. If you're saying that you're not successful because you don't live in a city, that's just a cop-out.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many people who come from every edge of the globe that are doing something unique that have, found a way to get through. And that's not saying that it's certainly easier in bigger cities where you can make bigger connections. But, I mean, I have nothing. I have mostly positive experiences here, and I really do genuinely love it here. And I mean, I could see myself living here, as long as I get like a helicopter or something. Like I could live here for the rest of my life, or a PJ.
Get the PJ.
Yeah.
Gotta be like Kobe and be able to helicopter into
where
you
want to go. Yeah. I mean, I'm just like it's just weird. Like my experience is different, right? Yeah. So it's like what I've seen in Boston is just like, it was just, and Boston and New York and LA, like these cities are like, everyone's just trying to step on each other, right? And it's just like, there's so much going on, and it's like, if you allow yourself to go, or if you're here, like use that to your advantage. Use that to your advantage that you're in a city like this that's still very new and up and coming, and try to leverage that into, that means that you're a big fish in a small pond type of thing.
For sure. Do you want to talk about the music thing? Never mind.
I don't know what that means.
Your music thing.
Oh, making music?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm really bad at it. Yeah, we could talk about it. Yeah.
Cool. So where are you? Like, I know we've like we spent a lot of like random time, especially like last year. We spent like a lot of time just kicking it and chatting. And I came over and saw like the studio in the crib and all that.
Yeah.
Hella guitars everywhere.
Oh, yeah,
and all
yeah,
that,
that's
you know
right.
what I mean? Beat making software everywhere. So
It's
like
crazy, yeah.
Is that like just another is that like another just a medium of expression? Or like where are you at with you know, dabbling with that or messing with that?
I think music from like, I mean, I've been listening to music and writing, like, started as short stories and poetry and stuff like my whole life, but I really didn't allow myself to go to a place of like it's going to be music until my mid-20s. So and then I taught myself I just taught myself guitar, and I bought like, you know, Ableton. I had an Ableton Push, and just started really like exploring music in a way that was I was so bad that it was just good, because it was like I didn't have any, like, anything that I did was like, wow. Like I'm like, oh shit. I was like my own hype man. Like I was like, whoa. And then I had Ableton, and I had like that wah 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 wah.
Oh Lord.
I was like,
not the DJ horn.
Yeah. I mean that's how bad that shit was, man. Like it was really bad. No, but I don't know, it was just very adolescent and naive and innocent for me, but it was a way to express myself without any expectations, because I put so much pressure on myself with the art, and that was my way to like make money. That it's sort of like there was a period of an entire year where I just lost complete interest in art. It just became like the way I made money, which sounds really ironic that art was the way I was making money, right? Like, but then music was just like, everything was new, like in terms of creating. And I don't have like a voice yet in music, and I'm really big on like obviously being your authentic self, and so I don't feel comfortable putting anything out, because first of all it's awful, but also it's just not, even if it's bad, it can still be good, right? You know what I mean? Like as long as you as long as you're like sort of in, I guess we have autotune now, so you don't even need to be in tune, but like as long as you're just sort of, I don't know, I don't know how to explain it, but it's like there's a way for music to be very authentic and raw, and not have to be like crazy scales or you know, really like a ton of notes.
Yeah, like you don't have to know like a bunch of music. You don't have to know a bunch of music theory. We live in a time where you don't have to know a bunch of music theory to make things that people wouldn't mind listening to or would enjoy.
Yeah, for sure. And again, as long as it's authentic and real,
right.
That's what that art has to be, real and authentic. Like it really has to be. Like, and people that are going to like, you know, Berkeley right now are like cringing at us because they're like, music theory, and you're gonna play all these notes, and you're gonna play diminished and fucking all this shit. And it's like, well, dude, no, you don't. Like, there's so many musicians out there that just feel, you know, they just feel it, and then they make you believe it, right? And that is art in its purest form. So, I'm not at that point yet, because I'm still trying to like search for my sound musically. But I mean, I'm in, like we talked. I mean, certainly like the rhythm aspects of hip hop are very much ingrained in me. But then there's like, I love guitar, and I love analog guitar. I love really old guitars. So like, they have a lot of character. Like sometimes they come out of tune. Sometimes there's certain nuances in the head that create different sounds. So like, I don't know where I'm at just yet, but I'm just creating.
Got you. Cool. That's all I have. Is anybody who's here have any questions?
Yeah, you guys have any questions?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So earlier in the conversation, you talked about, I guess, really finding your voice.
Yeah.
How did you go about actually finding your voice?
Just a lot. I think the best thing that I can suggest is just doing a ton of research, like on anything. Like just go, you know, the internet, the library, like look at an art history book or music history or whatever your medium is. Like study everything. Just go down that sort of like rabbit hole of what you're looking at, and even allow yourself to not have like, here we go, like hippie shit, like not even have like an end of the journey type thing. Just allow yourself to be immersed in the journey and find things that speak to you. Maybe it's like a color from this movement, or you know, a way that they use the brushstrokes in this certain movement, or you know, subject matter from this movement, and just sort of pick and choose from all these different things. I mean, for me, it was just this one movement. Like that's how I found what I was into. And I just I've been still to this day, last 13, 14 years, refining it, trying to make it better, trying to take elements from, you know, contemporary and the past. But I remember just trying everything too. Like I tried everything. I thought I was going to do watercolor for a while, and then it was like, so it's like what I'm doing for music too. It's just like searching, just allowing yourself to just be in the moment and immersed in search. And I probably sound like a super frustrating answer. Like it sounds really like esoteric, but I mean, for me, that's what the journey looked like for me.
For sure.
Actually, we talked about earlier about when you were not feeling creative at times, you push yourself through.
Yeah.
Kind of going through that myself. What were like the disciplines that you kind of implemented? Because you said you just
Yeah.
what were those disciplines? I heard you talk about some of things.
Yeah, for sure. Some of the like when I know that I'm creating from a place of authenticity, like it's a feeling, like I know what that feels like. So I know what that end result is. Like I'm like, oh, this is what it feels like. This is what it feels like when I'm immersed in it. And so what I've trained myself to do is like I know enough now that I can almost like channel that now. Where I'm like, but so. This is, again, it sounds so like esoteric, but like sometimes it's just literally a matter of me sitting down and forcing myself. Like I just physically have to grit my teeth and be like, I hate this. Like this sucks. Like I'm not engaged. I'm not involved. And then it's like, an hour goes by or 15 minutes or whatever. And I sort of get into a space where I start to like the piece or I start to, and that's where the discipline comes in, where you just got to grin and bear it. But there are other times too where like, we talked about like sometimes it's a matter of just like detaching myself from whatever it is I'm working on. Maybe I go for a walk. Maybe I drink a lot of coffee. Maybe I do some mushrooms. I don't fucking know. Like do some drugs. like just, anything, right? Anything that's going to allow yourself to just get there. But really it just comes down to like, for me, because I'm super like, sometimes I'm just super lazy and undisciplined. I just got to like force myself into that space. Does that help? Yeah.
You kind of answered part of my question, what you just said.
Yeah.
At least like you did, but as far as validation goes, like you're creating art and you've spoken on like staying authentic to your true self,
Yeah.
which I think is really beautiful. But like, is there a sense of validation that you do kind of like sense out from others and connection from the people that like buy your art?
Yeah, for sure. That's a really good question, and my pause isn't like the hesitation and pause I have is not. It's just more trying to process that. So I guess like there's like it's sort of like two things, right? The validation is I'm self-aware enough to look at art and I'm like, that's fucking good. And then I look at my shit and I'm like, that's garbage, right? So you know what I mean? Or I'll be like, that's not good, right? And I'm aware enough of myself where I'm like, I'm not making things that, my heroes are making or the people that I'm influenced by is making. So I know enough now that when I create something and I'm like, whoa, that's good. And I think that you should allow yourself, like, this is where like Kanye gets in trouble, but it's like the dude knows when he makes good shit and he'll tell you. And like that's where like I know but I'll also tell you when other people are making good shit. It's not just about me. Like I give compliments all the time, but so like there's that self-awareness. And then the external validation is like I've had to really really be it's almost an addiction, external validation, because like when you get it's like, what's the next high for me? It's like first it was like one person bought the painting. And now like I have private collectors that collect for me all the time. And now it's like, it's almost like that's not enough. And it's like, what's the next one? And it's like, I've had to really sort of reformat my brain to be like, because now I'm like looking for the big fish. Like now I want Nike. Like now I want Adidas. Now I want like, now I want to like do big things. And like, I've had to really just be like, learn how to live in the moment and enjoy the process, enjoy being an artist. I don't even know if that answered your question, but
Absolutely.
okay.
As somebody who's like kind of in the culture and out there to the streets,
Yeah.
What do you think, if any, the impact of All Star was on Charlotte?
That's a really good question.
That's a really good question.
Yeah, really good question. I mean, honestly, I only went to a few things, so like I can't. The scope of it. So maybe that answers your question. The pure scope of everything that was going on was huge. So, I mean, certainly from that perspective, it looked huge, and certainly from a revenue perspective, it looked huge. And I think that everyone that I've talked to and every sort of article that I read, it was very positive about like I guess what was it, 91?
Yeah.
I think there was a lot of negativity. Like, I wasn't here, but there was a lot of negativity around what happened in 91 of how it was just like it was really not a lot going on. And
well, historical context on that. Granted, I was just born in '91, and if the All-Star game was in February, that means I wasn't even here yet. But like, just from talking to people, it's just like the franchise was like born in the late '80s. So for the All-Star game to be here, like a few years after the franchise started, like Charlotte was still very like still growing and like deciding it wanted to even be a big city. So like there wasn't, not that there wasn't much investment in it, but it just wasn't, they weren't really prepared for it. Almost like the same feeling how we felt probably going into this All-Star is how things actually were when it happened in 91. Yeah. So people were just kind of like,
yeah, for sure.
It's like the circus coming to town and you're like, for the first time, you're like, what do you mean I'm going to go see elephants? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that's probably like the equivalent.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah. I mean, I went to the Jordan pop-up and like, I was standing next to Spike Lee, and that was like, oh shit, like Spike's here. Like that was,
bro. I saw Pee Wee Kirkland.
Oh yeah, I saw that. I saw your thing,
that was
man.
insane.
Yeah, I saw your Instagram post,
bro. That blew my mind.
Yeah,
I was like, that's wild.
Yeah,
like
that dude was like a crazy ball player, but also like a drug dealer or some shit.
Yeah,
right?
bro. Yeah. Pee Wee Kirkland. He's a legend in 2 games. Shout out to Pusha T.
Yeah.
But yeah, I didn't mean to jump in on that.
No,
but
no,
yeah,
no.
like,
I mean, like. Again, I went to the Puma, like I have connection, like my Puma, when I used to work at Puma, so the Puma had like the big Danny Green party, like, so that was crazy, just seeing like Yo Gotti was there, like dunking on people, like, I mean, that's not something you see every day. Like, I was like, this is new. Like, you know, I'm like, oh shit. I mean, I don't see that every day. Maybe other people do, but like, it was just, it's a cool experience. Like, I have a very hard time, like, I don't want to be the person who like, questions like that, I'm not trying to be coy. I just don't want to feel, I feel like I don't want to be the person that's like the voice of Charlotte. So like I can only talk about my experience. So my experience was, I thought it was cool. I saw a lot of things that, you know, I've never seen before. Obviously there was a ton of brands here. I mean, it brought a lot of money in for the city. Those are only the things that I can speak on. And I think that anytime you have any of that kind of stuff, it's definitely a positive for the city. It would be really, really cool. It would be, or it would have been also, had there been a platform maybe to leverage some select few of local people that were doing what they're doing. And maybe there was, and I just didn't see it, but like musically or like artistically, creatively, poetry, fashion, whatever. If there was some way to highlight a select number of people locally to put them on this large, massive pedestal that we had here, that would have been really cool. Like, I don't know what that looks like. I don't want to even be the architect for that, but maybe it was like...
Ooh, I have some ideas.
Yeah. I mean, for me personally, I had 3 days before the All-Star game, I had someone reach out to me. I'm not going to name drop like the company, but they reached out to me for a very significant project. They had a 3-day turnaround, and it was like I had to pitch it like with very sort of like general parameters. So they were kind of like being careful with it. But I mean, I got reached out to, I didn't get the gig. So I'm sure these things were happening, but I just didn't see enough of it. Mm-hmm. Hopefully that answers your question.
For sure. Any more questions? Anything at all? Like they say in church.
Sorry for talking your guys' ears off.
Sorry. I was going to ask, like, so for me, I don't know how to stick with one thing long enough to be good at it.
Yeah.
So how, if you do you feel like you might at some point branch off from the cut and paste, or I know you said you probably don't do it
Yeah.
outside, but
No. That
if you'll ever like explore different types, even different like art mediums.
For sure. So yeah, so to answer your question, I actually do. It's just like now, so there's like almost like a 2-part question. So I do that now, but it doesn't always get shown because now I have to like, for like the Kyle Mosher brand, I have an aesthetic, right? Or I have like a thing. So I want to represent that as, you know, in the forefront of whatever. But there's a lot of stuff behind the scenes, like me having meltdowns and me just like, you know, you got me on like, yesterday was I can't even imagine if I was on the podcast yesterday. Like, it's almost good that it got pushed because I was having I've been in like a big rut the last 5 or 6 months, like really bad, really dark places. Like one day I'm straddling the line right now between self-proclaimed brilliance and crippling depression. So it's like that sort of, I'm just like, well, today I'm a genius. Tomorrow I'm like, oh, I'm not going to be here. Like, and that's sort of where I'm at with my art right now, right? So it's like, it's just, I guess to answer your question, like one of the things I want to do is sculpture. Really want to do sculpture, and I really want to like explore that. So how do I take cut paper? My challenge now for me is how do I take my style and make it in sculpture, and that's what I'm exploring now. So yeah, absolutely. And I guess here's the challenge too: is like force yourself, right? So maybe you throw out everything, but if you're like trying to do watercolor, maybe you just throw everything out, or maybe you have Dave lock it in a safe or something, and he only has the code. Like force yourself. Like sometimes it comes down to just like a lot of like me being able to be a full-time artist was like I kept getting fired from jobs. So like I just would get fired. Like they were just like, well, you don't work here anymore. So like and eventually I was just like, well, fuck, I'm sick of being fired. So now I'm just gonna like be a full-time artist. And I have not, honest to God, I swear to God, I have not worked a regular job since like when I got fired from the Apple gig that I was working. I was like, I'm just gonna do this now. And it was like it just forced me. It forced me to learn business. It forced me to like. So maybe you have to figure out ways to kind of force yourself.
Most people don't even give you that type of like advice. Most people aren't like, we live in a time where like people don't really give you that like, no, bro, like do it.
Yeah.
Like it's always like it is that, but it's always feel like it's like pills and applesauce. Very few people, like it's very few times where people tell you to like swallow a brick.
Yeah.
They're just like, oh no, like you're amazing.
Yeah.
Like sunshines and rainbows, like you can do it.
For sure.
But you're like, no, bro, like eat shit.
Yeah. Well, and I hope that, honestly, I hope that comes across as authentic. Because, like, honestly, again, I can only speak to things that I've done.
Right,
like, only things that I've done in my career and in my life. And I'm telling you, like, I will be the first to talk about my failures. Yeah. I'm the first to, like, whew, don't even get me started on that fucking humble comment somebody said to me the other day. My God, it's like somebody called me not humble. I'm like, bro, I was fucking, like, living on people's couches, eating out of vending machines, living with roaches. Like, I've been there. Like, I've been into the lowest of lows. Like, I talk about that all the time. And you caught me on a one day where I wanted to celebrate my achievements. Like, and now you're going to call me not humble. It's like, man, fuck social media. I'm gone. I'm deleting Twitter again.
Don't do that, man. We need you. All right, man. I think that's it. We've been at it for a little bit now, and I'm going to let these fine people go home.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for showing up to our second installment of Here and Doing Things. Kyle, thank you for coming, bro. I appreciate it.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate you having me on.
No doubt, man.
I want to thank you guys really for coming out. Seriously.
Yeah, live it up to yourselves for coming out. We appreciate you guys. Yes, everything you see is for sale. Also, I made the mistake last time of like making a premature announcement about like the collab, even though it was like kinda on the way. The In Our Nature collab is still on its way. I have a collab with Kyle that's still on the way. We still have to. I'm still delivering on those things, and I also owe you guys an extra episode because February was too crazy to actually record. So I'm figuring out what that looks like as well. So I'm going on record for all of those things. So I'm behind on 2 collabs, and I'm behind on an episode.
Yeah.
Everybody here is allowed to hold me accountable, even via Instagram DM or text message.
I got free stuff. If you guys want. It's right there.
Bright light at the end of the tunnel. Thank you guys, and that is it.
Thanks, guys.